Huh? Well, this is going to be interesting. Hi, everyone. Looks like I'm back on track this week. But, well, a couple weeks ago, during one of the Twitch streams, Isla and I started talking about various famous trios that remind us of Martin, Madeline, and Shane. A couple of ideas we came up with were Zelda, Ganon, and Link, because I've already drawn a correlation between them and the various parts of the Triforce. Remember, Martin is power, Madeline is wisdom, and Shane is courage. And then it was Squall, Cypher, and Renella from Final Fantasy VIII. There is an element of a love triangle there between these three that you'll start seeing develop as they get older like they are here. We could probably do one of the Naruto teams, but I'm a little torn on whether or not to do that one. Naruto was pretty good, but Shippuden was kinda mid, and I haven't had the heart to watch Boruto. I tell you what, if this video gets 50 likes before the end of June, then I'll do them as a Naruto team. Just comment your favorite Naruto team down below, and the most popular choice will end up being the basis we use to design them. But one of the obvious ones were the characters we came up with first, because they have corresponding color schemes to our main characters. With the color combinations of red, blue, and green, I think that Huey, Dewey, and Louie are actually going to be a fun start to this particular set of art projects. And while we're at it, let's see how many parallels we can draw between Owlden and Duckburg. I think the first one is the most obvious one. It's the naming conventions of both these places. We have Duckburg and Owlden. Both places are named for types of birds. But also, I think another cool thing to mention is how Duckburg has a lot of different iterations going across Disney's various multiverses. Well, for instance, the first time that we actually see Duckburg animated is going back to 1987 in the animated featurette Sport Goofy and Soccer Mania. But it was the original 1987 run of DuckTales with that iconic theme song that followed closely to Duckburg's comic book run going far back as 1944. Oh, but we're not going to get into what Donald was doing back then. Still, in every iteration of Duckburg, the city is originally an old fort located on the west coast of the United States, in a fictional state called Calisota, a portmanteau of California and Minnesota. Interestingly enough, the borders of Calisota actually correspond fairly well to a real-life state that was proposed called Jefferson, which would have made up what we know as Northern California today. Well, that sounds pretty different from Alden's start, as an empty space in the highlands with only a couple buildings, but then there comes an interesting detail. Scrooge McDuck. Not only do we have the obvious correlation that Scrooge is Scottish, like most of our cast in Monomyth, but just as Matthias leased the land from Scottish nobles, Scrooge bought the land from its previous owner, Casey Coote, and turned the old fort into a sort of city-state. In many stories, there actually exists a Duckburg embassy, which, knowing how embassies work, would mean that it's actually set apart, at least legislatively, from the United States where it's located. In fact, the city of Duckburg actually has its own flag in Disney canon. It's a white duck on a field of green. This makes me want to design a flag or maybe even a coat of arms for Alden. Now that could be an interesting project, especially if we could figure out the reasons why each of the elements on the coat or flag matter to the city or the village itself. Oh, but, well, what about our heroes? I think it's pretty evident that Huey is for Martin. They're both red, and that would mean Dewey in blue for Madeline, and that leaves Shane with Louie's greens. The color parallels are perfect. But what about their personalities? In the 1987 run of DuckTales, the boys' personalities were based on their comic book appearance, where Huey is their leader and the one who comes up with most of their plans. Dewey is the most intelligent, and Louie is the kindest. Well, this is pretty close, but it's kind of a skew of how Martin and Shane are in ways. Shane is definitely the more cunning of the two, but Martin's more kind. So, we've still got a good match in this version with Madeline and Dewey. Both of them are being intelligent and prepared. However, it's when we get to the 1996 run of Quack Pack, where the trio are all teenagers, with a more distinct look and even more distinct personalities. In this one, Huey is more of a bold leader and Louie is athletic. This works a lot better for comparing them to Martin and Shane. Dewey's still the smart one, and that fits really well for Madeline even at the start. Actually, the Quack Pack version of Duckburg also works well, because you could almost place these more modern renditions of Martin, Madeline, and Shane right down inside it. During that run of the cartoon, Donald, Daisy, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, as well as Ludwig von Drake, are the only anthropomorphized characters to make regular appearance, whereas most of the supporting cast are actually humans. And this is a rather uncommon sight in the Disneyverse, where House of Mouse, DuckTales, and even Goof Troop takes place. So now I want to talk a little bit about the picture itself. Obviously, I'm leaning on the colors for the Quack Pack version of the boys and their outfits. I'm particularly happy with the shoes being the sort of yellowish-orange tone to mimic the duck feet of the original characters. Since they kind of look like Converse high tops, I think we're going to go ahead and name this brand of footwear Duck Tailors. Now, this imagining of our characters in modern style is just one way that we are constantly looking at things from new perspectives during our writing and brainstorming. Remember, there's two of us that write these stories together, but more than that, we have a diverse friend group with a wide range of interests that we help bounce a lot of ideas off of. So it's fun to rework and reimagine Alden and its residents in various ways. We actually just got finished recently writing a story that will probably be made available once Monomyth is finished, but I'm not sure where. Actually, I'd like to add some of our spin-off stories, maybe to the Patreon page. They work kind of like fan fictions, except they're all canonical multiverses of the Tales of Atonement series. Now, if you'd like to read these stories in their original written format, let us know in the comments down below. Maybe if these stories also get enough attention and desire to read them, we'll make them into a set of miniseries with actual comic books and possibly even animations. the Tales of Atonement universe does work the multiverse theorem, sort of like Spider-Man, Final Fantasy, BioShock, and even Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. I'm a huge fan of alternate universes and stories that have multiple branching timelines like Chrono Trigger. We also have much of the DC comics and even Sonic the Hedgehog. The multiverse is actually a really popular trope because it works so well in comics. That's one reason why we decided for the comic book format for a lot of our series, and then dubbed them into animations for you. I also think these colors look really great. The vibrancy is a lot more fun than the dull and realistic colors that I usually use. I think that Disney has a fantastic use of color schemes to really make their characters recognizable. For example, can you recognize this character based just off its colors? Okay, that's a little easy. Of course, it's Mickey. This one might be a little harder. Did you think of Mulan? Alright. Who is this set of colors? Buzz Lightyear to the rescue! Alright, last one, and probably the hardest. What about this one? I'll give you a chance at multiple choice. Genie, Sully, Stitch, or Elsa. You know, I bet if you got this one wrong, you'll probably never let it go. I'm sorry! I really hope our characters can be recognized easily like that one day. It's one of the core parts of good character design, along with a really recognizable silhouette. So, viewers, I'd like to brainstorm right now. Let's imagine for a moment that Owlden is an anthropomorphized world like we see in Disney. What type of birds, or specifically owls, would these characters be? Well, the most common species of owl that can be found in Scotland is the tawny owl. This is a woodland species with 7 recognized subspecies. It usually makes its nest in a tree hole, where its eggs and its owlets will be protected from predators. However, tawny owls are also non-migratory and highly territorial, so much that if a young tawny owl leaves the parent's nest and can't find its own territory, it'll actually starve. And that's really sad. I think I might need to find a more communal owl. Thankfully, these owls are very plentiful and at no risk of being endangered or going extinct. But it does have a large place in human folklore in the area, thanks to its haunting call. Because of this, people have associated this bird with bad omens and even death. Alright, I think there's probably a better owl species that would fit the hospitable folks of Owlden. And here it is, the long-eared owl. On top of being probably the most recognizable type of owl in the world, unlike most other owls, this particular species is actually highly communal and will even cooperate with other species of birds. These include crows, ravens, magpies, and some hawks. Often they'll even use the leftover nests of these birds and claim them as their own. Alright, moving on. That being said, I think that probably, given that information, that the best bet for an anthro bird of Madeline would probably be some kind of raven. They get along with the owls, and ravens are by far the most common corvid in Britain, not to mention intelligent. Also, it was believed that witches and sorcerers like Madeline could transform into ravens in order to fly away and escape. Who knows? Maybe that's one reason why Edna wears so much black. Hey, come to think of it, didn't Maleficent have a raven that flew around with her? And then again, I guess there's also Magica de Spell to consider. She first appeared in Scrooge's comic books in 1961. Oh, but she's a duck, not a raven. I think Disney could have done better in diversifying their cast of birds. She even has a raven familiar. Disney, just make her a raven. It would be so cool. Sometimes I think they get too stuck on a theme without thinking what would actually make for an interesting story. I mean, there have been plenty of owls in Disney movies, from Bambi, The Sword and Stone, and who could forget Owl in Winnie the Pooh? Oh, actually, Duckburg does have at least one resident that is an anthropomorphized owl. In the 2017 DuckTales reboot, we're introduced to Zan Owlson. Or well, reintroduced. You see, in the Darkwing Duck comics, she's actually the mayor of St. Canard, the city where Darkwing Duck conducts his vigilantism. We know that Duckburg is recognized in the Darkwing canon, as Launchpad McQuack refers to it often. And so what do we have here? A couple of long-eared owl brothers and their raven friend? I can picture that. And it might be fun to color something like that in the future. Probably still keep it a Disney style to keep up with this particular theme. Let's see. 100 views by the end of June. And I'll do a different version of this with all three of them in bird form. So share it with a Disney nut in your family. It is amazing some of the rabbit holes I go down when looking for the info for these projects. I love learning the nitty-gritty of some of these fandoms and the lore to find it's even more inspiring in all kinds of ways. I mean, we just did spend the last little bit of our time going down a Disney dive, all to draw a correlation to Aladdin here in the Tales of Atonement universe. But also, Disney, well, it is Disney after all. Apart from being the worst capitalist dreams in the world of creation, see how Disney shrank the umbrella of Creative Commons to keep Mickey Mouse under their trademark and stifled creative use of everything from fictional characters like Peter Pan and Heracles to scientific papers. Long story short, Disney lobbied to change a bunch of copyright laws to keep Mickey from entering the Creative Commons, but only after buying the rights to a lot of already Creative Commons property. In doing so, though, they actually stifled everything under the Creative Commons for a further few decades. This also included a lot of scientific work. How does that hurt? Well, that means that the patents on these papers won't run out anytime soon, meaning that further scientific study utilizing these works can't get past certain copyright barriers, and has made scientific pursuits more expensive in the long run, because they have to do things like paying for licensing fees. But, I mean, I guess they have been pretty cool in Florida lately. I won't get into that. At least not till next month. Actually, we have a lot of unique projects to bring you during June. Tales of Atonement is doing a full Pride Month marathon. Want a preview of what we got going on there? Well, the first week of June will be polyam, bisexuality, and man love, featuring Matthias, Timothy, Edna, and Cassandra. For those who already saw the video talking about Matthias and his job as both a bard and a burgess, you may already have an idea what's going on. If not, you should go watch that video too. Well, but back to this. It's actually about time for me to finish up, so enjoy the rest of the project. thank you for coming back again this week. I'm glad my health has finally improved enough that I can be back with you guys. I really love doing these videos for you. It's been a big boost of confidence ever since I started. Hopefully, Disney won't hit me with anything with this video. It's meant to be informative and educational, at least to a point. But also, I wanted you to enjoy it, so I hope that you did. Now, let's go ahead and thank our patrons. We have, in the Observer tier, Shadow Fox. The non-combatant tier, Jace Moreland, Arya Gamari, and Charles Tam. And our Keeper tier, Lunder Lumen. Thank you, patrons, and hopefully we'll see more of you out there soon. This week is another returning artist, Rama, or Lightshine799 on Fiverr. Obviously, we really like working with them. Please look for the link to their business in the description.